So we know that there's no perfect human being. So no system is perfect. We agreed on that on Tuesday. And whether it's communist system, socialistic system, capitalist system, fascism, or other kinds of system in any society, they are not going to be perfect. And maybe capitalists, we know, capitalists, business people, business owners, their goal is to maximize profits, revenues, and sales. If they cease to do that, we cannot call that organization or that entity capitalist. We got to call them something else, non-profit or failed businesses. So maybe because their goal is always to maximize sales and profits and revenues, maybe sometimes they overdo that. They try to pay workers as little as possible to the point that they exploit them. They try to make workers work overtime, have more shifts to produce more goods and services to maximize profits. And this is another form of exploitation. And maybe they make their workers or employees work in hazardous, dangerous conditions. That's another form of exploitation. And according to Karl Marx, one day these workers are going to realize that they are being shortchanged, taken advantage of, exploited by the business owners, factory owners, and the capitalists. And they are going to realize that through a sense of class consciousness, they are going to gain a sense of class consciousness. They are going to realize that they themselves, belonging to the working class, are being exploited by the capitalists or the bourgeoisies. And they are going to start a revolution to overthrow the capitalists. But when we look at history, we've been through some of this before. When we look at historical incidents, all these socialistic, communistic revolutions, were they started by the working class having gradually or all of a sudden gained a sense of awareness, or we call them class consciousness, and therefore they decided to overthrow the capitalists and to start to share everything owned by the capitalists, to have a society characterized by shared ownership, shared resources, to start a society characterized by equity. And if we look at history, it seems that all the socialistic or communistic revolutions were being started by outsiders. We've been through this before. Karl Marx, the person who pioneered the idea that economic inequality truly manifests itself with the advent of capitalism. He invented the concept of communism or socialism. But if you Google Karl Marx 411, he was educated. He was trained as a journalist. And the printing press came about when he invented the concept of communism or socialism. So he was able to spread his ideas through the printing press across Germany and to other countries in Europe, even to countries in other continents. So he might not be filthy rich like Bill Gates, like Elon Musk, but he was definitely educated. And if you Google his 411, he never worked in a factory before. He was never a member of the working class. He was never a member of the proletariat. He was an outsider who influenced the working class to make them realize that they were being shortchanged by the factory owners, by the management, by their supervisors, by other business owners. And I forgot to talk about Mao Zedong. Let's talk about Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong came from a land-owning class. His family owned a lot of land in China, and they rented out the lands to the sharecroppers, to the tenants, and they extract certain percentages from their crop productions. So Mao Zedong was also not from the working class. He was a bourgeoisie. We can classify that. And he could also be classified as a capitalist. Other people work for his family, and they could send him to school even from a very young age. So even though he lived on a farm himself, he too, in my humble opinion, tried to understand the phenomena in China from an outsider's perspective. I speculated that he rarely worked on his family farms. They always had hired workers. And Mao Zedong attended teachers' college. So he too was educated. And when he was influenced by Karl Marx's ideas through books, he worked as a librarian at a university in China. So he was exposed to lots of books, including books related to Marxism. And he eventually identified himself as a Marxist and as a Leninist. And he figured the situations in China could only change for the better if they embrace communism and Stalinism and Leninism. So that's how he started the revolution. He made the workers in factories, maybe the tenants from his own farm and from other farms, realized that they might be shortchanged by the landowners, by the factory owners, by their supervisors, and by the management. And so it seems that the working class did not by themselves acquire a sense of class consciousness. They did not gain an awareness that they were being shortchanged. It was always somebody from outside who made them realize that they were being taken advantage of. And the last person I want to mention is Ho Chi Minh from Vietnam. Ho Chi Minh also furthered his education in France. And that was when he was influenced by the leftist ideals, the socialistic ideals in France. And he too had the idea that if Vietnam adopts socialism or communism, things would improve for all Vietnamese. That's what he did. I don't think Ho Chi Minh was part of the working class. I don't think he worked on the paddy fields in different farmlands in Vietnam. I don't think he worked in any factories in Vietnam before. Maybe he just got an advanced education in France and he was influenced by the leftist ideals. And he went back to the working class folks in Vietnam. He convinced them that they were being shortchanged, taken advantage of, or even exploited by their employers, by the capitalists, by the business owners, the factory owners, or the landowners. And he inspired them to start a revolution. So, from all these names we came across, it was them who inspired the working class to start a revolution. It seems that the proletariats or working class in many poor countries, many underdeveloped or developing countries, they did not acquire a sense of class consciousness by themselves. It was always an outsider who came in to influence them to start a revolution.